everyone, I'm Crafty Ninja and welcome to another 3D Tumbler video. Today's project is one Loki himself would be proud of. A mischievous alligator burdened with glorious purpose and brought to life using polymer clay and a tumbler. So grab your favorite clay, tools, and let's get crafty. So the first thing we're going to do for this project is we're going to grab a 16-ounce Plump from Steel Magnolia. We're going to start wrapping it with our ultralight clay, creating kind of a head shape and a body shape. Once I got the clay where I wanted it, then I started blending it in the middle. To finish off the base, I'm going to add a little bit more ultralight clay and create a snout, and then I'm going to bake it. After my cup is baked and cooled, then I'm going to wrap it in some super Sculpey that I rolled out with my pasta roller. For his nostrils, I take some balls of clay and I place 2 on both sides of the end of his snout. Here I'm taking a rope of clay and placing it right on the bridge of his nose to create a bump for a little bit more character. For the eyes, I just take some balls of clay and I place it right on the side of his face and blend it in, and then take some ropes of clay and place it on top and bottom and then blend it into the base. And then I repeat on the other side. For the mouth, I use this spatula tip tool and I just create that edging where his mouth would go. You can also do this with a needle point tool as well. Here I felt like I made his bottom part of the cup a little bit too round, so I'm adding some clay to kind of bulk out his chest just a little bit. If you've seen any of my other animal cup tutorials, this will look very familiar, but you just take a rope of clay and place it on both sides of his body and blend it in really well to give him the legs. And then I take a little bit of extra clay to start to create the paws. For his little reptile toesies, we take these little balls of clay and place it right at the edge of his paw, and we blend it in really well and give it a nice point at the end. For his back legs, I shaped them before I placed them onto the cup, and then I just blend it in really nicely on the side, and then we continue the little bitty toes right on the top of that paw that we just created. And then we're going to repeat the whole process on the other side. Once the legs were done, then I took a rope of clay and placed it right at the back to create his tail, and then I blended it in. Now for the fun part, or not, depending on who you are. But here is where I start creating the scales, and around the eyes, I just do like these rectangle shapes on the top and bottom of his lids. For the rest of his scales that go all the way around his body, I just make some random shapes everywhere for long periods of time. For his other eyelid, I do the same thing as I did with the first and create kind of a rectangle shapes on the top and bottom of his eyelids. And I kind of do the same thing around his nostrils as well and create those rectangle shapes on the top. And here I am doing more scales. Now down the center of his back, I create these slightly larger scales in kind of an oval shape, and I take it all the way down the center of his back down to the tip of his tail. And then I continue making the random smaller scales all the way around his body except for his belly. For the scales on his belly, I created more of a row of scales and I kept them more in a rectangular shape. Next, I start adding the teeth and I just place them right at the edge of his mouth and I just blend them in. I believe I did 5 on each side. To finish off the detailing of the sculpting portion, I create these more standing up scales and I place them on both sides of our center line all the way down the tail. Then I expand those standing scales out one more row on each side. And once I'm finished, then I put it in the oven to bake. Now for my favorite part of the sculpting process is painting. It just brings the whole thing to life. And I start by painting his belly with this lighter green color. For his body, I painted it this Clover green color. If I were to do this cup again, I probably would have started with my darker green, which I'll show you later, but I feel like it would be easier to paint it with the darker color and then dry brush the lighter color on top. But I didn't consider that when I started making this cup. Because I struggle to get a really good color with my yellow, I like to give it a nice white base before I paint my yellow on top. Then I add the black to finish off his eyes. Now normally I add little white dots to his eyes, but I forgot. For his teeth, I used a linen white color. Here's where I do an acrylic wash. I water down some darker green and I brush it on and then wipe it off to leave it in those crevices of his scales. I do the same with the other scales. I use a really dark green, I brush it on, and then I wipe it off. Now, like I said earlier, I probably would have started with this color and then dried brush the lighter color on top, but you can do it either way. Last but not least, I paint the more pointed scales with this medium green. Once I finish painting, then I'll start on the topper. For my toppers, I like to use these biscuit cutters. I use a large one for the size of my lid and a smaller one for the inside of my lid. Next, I like to mark where my straw is going to go. I cut a hole out and then I cut out this extra portion that will accommodate the little plastic tip where the straw is in case people do not want to remove that. When I am happy with this part, I like to bake it so I have a nice firm piece of clay to sculpt on top of. Once my topper base is baked, I like to place one more piece of clay on top. Then I take a ball of foil and place it on top of that clay, leaving room for that straw hole. Then I take another rope of clay and I place it on the back side of the straw hole, blending it in really well while still also making sure there's plenty of space for the straw. Then I begin to wrap the rest of my foil in clay. I do this until I have a nice round smooth surface. And then I cut off the excess around the bottom. Once I am happy with my base, then I take some more foil and I start to create those horns. When I'm happy with the size and shape of my foil base, then I wrap it in clay. When I'm happy with the shape of my horn, then I place it right at the front of my helmet and blend it in, while also making sure that my helmet is still nice and round. Then I repeat the process one more time. Now to hide the edge of that lid, I like to place another rope of clay that goes just a little bit farther down, just to make that hat seem a little bit more seamless with my alligator. Once I'm happy with the shape of my helmet, then I bake him and place a light coat of ultralight on top, and then I spray paint it with a metallic gold spray paint. You'll finish it off by adding a couple more coats of UV resin. For my magnets, I take some liquid fusion and then some UV resin to help hold those magnets in place. This is where it's going to get a little tricky because your magnets are going to want to pull towards each other. So you're going to have to hold your magnets in place while you cure that UV resin. And once your magnets are in place and secure, you're going to do one more coat of UV resin. And here is our finished Loki Alligator tumbler. As a reminder, if you are making this on a tumbler, be sure to seal with an FDA compliant epoxy resin or an epoxy alternative like Crystalline. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching me make this tumbler. If you did, it would mean a lot to me if you would like and subscribe to my channel. I love what I do and I love sharing it with all of you guys. As always, have a great day and remember to stay crafty.